Do any of you ever get overwhelmed? I take that as a yes. Do you ever get worried about things? It seems that when stress and trouble come our way, it's human nature to trust ourselves, or maybe those around us, to get ideas to make things better. But even when we get the answers we need, we often are left feeling empty or frustrated, maybe even angry. Over the years, spiritual directors have said to me, "Trust God, Ed. When trouble comes, trust God." You would think by my age I have learned that. But each time, it's a struggle to give up control. Today, we hear about Martha and Mary, two remarkable women. Over the years, they have come to stand for many things, service versus worship, or the monastic life versus the secular life, social activism versus personal piety, faith versus works, and many, many more things. But to view them that way, we lose sight of Martha and Mary. We lose sight of them as the people they are and their encounter with Jesus. Take Martha. She's the head of her household. For a Jewish woman of the first century, this is a sign of great tragedy. It means she is either widowed or has never married. It also means that she has no position in society and that her situation is a sign of God's displeasure. In that society, such a woman should be as invisible as possible. She should cling quietly to what little life her culture offers her. But for some reason, Martha finds Jesus compelling. Maybe it's by rumor, or maybe it's by the way he appears. Whatever the reason, Martha does an unthinkable thing. She invites this stranger, this rabbi, this man into her house. It's a bold and reckless action that strikes at convention, ignores propriety, and is absolutely scandalous. But Martha sees an opportunity of immense value in Jesus, and she reaches for it, ignoring everything that stands in her way. Her actions are both courageous and bizarre. No doubt, people will talk. Mary also makes a big, bold, controversial decision. She sits at the feet of Jesus to listen and to learn. Now, there are only a few things a woman can do in that day that are worse than inviting a strange man into her house. And one of them is having a rabbi teach her. This is forbidden by rabbinic law. It's plain wrong. But Mary doesn't care that her decision strikes at the very fabric of her society. She sees in Jesus the same power, the same draw that Martha sees. So she sits and she begins to listen, to hear the words of Jesus. Mary sees an opportunity of immense value, and she reaches for it, ignoring convention and propriety. Her actions are both courageous and scandalous. No doubt, people will talk. Now, Jesus is watching Martha and Mary. He sees each of them make her radical choice. He accepts Martha's invitation and enters the house. He continues to teach as Mary sits at his feet and listens. Jesus knows that both of these decisions are improper actions for any respectable teacher or rabbi to follow. But he supports them. Maybe he even admires them. Then Martha comes to Jesus with her complaint. There's work to do, ordinary, regular work. It's appropriate and right for Mary to help with that work, and Jesus should tell her so. Only one thing is needful, Jesus says to Martha. What? What's he saying? Martha knows that. She took great risk for that one thing, the presence of Jesus. She invited him in. But in her angst, Martha misses the point that Mary is doing exactly what she did. And Martha whines because now the presence of Jesus is not convenient. Martha assumes she can invite Jesus into her life and then return to business as usual with nothing else, or at least not very much, any different than it's always been. Or maybe she wanted to be the one who decided what changed and what did not. Only one thing is needful, says Jesus. And suddenly, the real issue is not who is going to do the dishes, but it is the meaning of Jesus, the consequences of Jesus' presence. For the presence of Jesus changes things. Life will be different. Some of the old rules and some of the old patterns will not work once Jesus has arrived. His presence will bring inconveniences and the need to reevaluate and to restructure. Then, eventually, all of your life will be different. All of life will change. The mundane will still be the mundane, but it'll be a joyful mundane. Like Martha, I worry a lot. I worry about the environment, about wars, about the slaughter of innocents, about drought and poverty and disease and racism and sexism, the economy and gas prices. I worry about the fragility of democracy and about the divisions in my country. I worry about my grandsons and the world that I have left for them in which to grow and to mature. I worry about all of you here this morning that are listening to me and all of the stuff you have been through in the past 2.5 years. I worry about retirement, about finding new doctors, about finding a new place to get a haircut. I worry. But today's story tells us how valuable it is to have Jesus in our lives. We are to invite him in and leave our worries at his feet. Now, I don't think he is telling us we will never worry again. That is sort of like telling water it will no longer run downhill. Worrying is a part of human nature. But Jesus is saying not to give importance to the worries of living life. Instead, focus on God. Have faith. Trust God all of the time. Life stuff happens whether we worry about it or not. There will be wars, drought, famine, disease, death. Months when the money is a little short. Jobs lost. Friends angry. Inflation, recessions, and on and on. But God, who is love, is committed to our welfare, and God desires that we experience life to the fullest. All else does not matter in the long run. My worries are silly because God already knows my needs. Because of God's utter faithfulness and love, I can place myself unreservedly in the care of the divine. So this story tells us that when we dare to fully invite Jesus into our lives, we become a part of God's new creation. And when we experience those birth pangs that draw us into the very life of God, worry becomes less and less important. And who is doing the dishes no longer matters. Amen.